It's the Frenchman, Yannick Bertrand, through the S-turn. Yannick Bertrand. Oh, the gate to the groin for Yannick Bertrand, and you could hear it. And if you're a man, you could feel it. Wow, watch this again. Oh, the Frenchman. Oh, monsieur. Wow, the boys took a beating on that one. That guy needs a hug. Those are the moments that change your life if you're a man, I tell you what.
Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Grand John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
As we say goodbye to the Olympics, we have to recount some of the tremendous moments of the Olympics. Did I do that okay, John? Was that okay that I did that one?
That was a fantastic clip. I still can't believe that that's an actual live broadcast. That sounds like something someone would do on TikTok for laughs.
No. What are you talking about, John? People don't do that kind of stuff. There's no way that happens. Okay, John.
Speaking of injury, Brad, I'm sorry to interrupt, but speaking of injury, from context clues over the weekend, I gathered that you had some sort of a near-death experience. Are we going to get into that in B block or C block?
John, if I told you, you are exactly correct. That is another one of Brad's crazy moments where I guess there's a chance I could have been killed. But as it was, I'm here. I'm not 100%, to be honest with you. I was about 40% on Saturday and maybe about 45% on yesterday. But yes, in B block, I will tell you the story, and you're not going to believe it, but it involves my broke down car again, and it involves my Kia.
Wow, I can't wait to hear that, Brad.
Okay, that is John Combest, and when I tell you the story, you are not going to believe it. That's John Combest every single day of his life for the past 24 years. He puts together this incredible list of all the important stuff you should know about in the state of Missouri. It's sort of like the Drudge Report, but only in the state of Missouri. Now, there's so many things on there that if you started right now at 7:05 in the Central Time Zone, 8:05 in the New York Time Zone, it would take you to probably 10 o'clock this morning to get through all of them and read the things. But so what we do is we bring John on, and he gives us the top three, and in his contract, he states we had to travel to Norway, dig up Casey Kasem's grave, put him in front of a microphone, record these bits, and he starts off with,
I'm Casey Kasem.
He always has to get his name in there, and we do with this one right here to start the show.
In third place,
for two guys who are relatively straight edge, we spend a lot of time, pardon me, talking about cannabis, marijuana, hemp on this show. And it is one of the hottest topics in the state of Missouri. And it's not only a hot topic across the state, but locally here, thanks to a big headline over the weekend from the Washington Missourian. And it's not just a local issue, Brad, because when we get to the lesson at the end of this, I think it applies to every community. Yes, every community in the state of Missouri. The headline from reporter Chris Parker, tensions high over proposed dispensary in Washington. Now, Brad, take a little break from your Mountain Dew. I want to ask you if you can picture where this location is.
Okay.
A place, there used to be a place called Gosh, which sounds like something Brad says a lot. GHOSH, Gosh Arthritis, Rheumatology, and Pain Clinic site, right at Highway 147. Do you know where that is, Brad?
I know exactly where it's at. It sits up on a hill. It's sort of interesting because it's not necessarily right on the corner. There's an insurance agency that's right on the corner. It sits back a little bit, and it sits up on like a bluff right off of 100, little bit east. I'd say maybe about 1,000 feet east of 47. And it's a very fancy building. Looks like some kind of like fancy schmancy kind of thing. I think it's got like reflective windows in the front and the whole bit. I know exactly where it's at.
Yeah, and so Chris Parker includes a photo of this in the piece today. Yeah, it looks very 90s, with that reflective glass. That's a good way to describe it, Brad. Thank you for that. So when you look at the building, it looks pretty flashy, and it used to be a place, pardon me, for arthritis, rheumatology, and pain clinic site, and now a place called Elevate Cannabis. Get it? Elevate, Brad? Get high? Do you get that joke?
And they're high. The building sits high off the ground. So I get it. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, Elevate. You get a little bit high. And Elevate's located in Kansas City. You say, John, cool story. There's 1 million dispensaries. Who cares? Well, last week, a week ago tonight, actually, a group of folks came in to the Washington City Council meeting, and they were not happy about the fact that this dispensary is starting to move in, has plans to move in. Neighbors told the Washington City Council they were caught completely unaware by the dispensary plans. They cited a range of concerns: increased traffic, unfamiliar vehicles in the neighborhood, and an exacerbation of issues with homelessness on the street. A guy named Dan Fisher lives nearby on Madison Avenue, and he told Chris Parker and the city council, as a neighborhood, this is not something we want. And I'll cut right to the lesson of the story. Pardon me again. The folks from Washington City said, okay, guys, we understand your complaints. And yes, it would be possible to rezone some areas or put in some restrictions about buffer zones. But guess what? Elevate Cannabis is essentially grandfathered in because they agreed to come to our city and we agreed to have them under the existing laws. And any kind of buffer zone or protections that we would apply would just be for future projects. And in fact, Brad, I gotta say, I generally don't take the side of the old big cannabis industry, but folks from the city said, look, if this is what you wanted, you should have come to us a long time ago and said, we want these restrictions. And they said, we really can't do anything now because this company came here under the current laws as they exist today, and we can't change the rules of the game. We can't move the goalposts just because now you decide you don't want it then. And so I'll read you this quote here, Brad. City Administrator Darren Lamb said another neighbor got in touch and wanted to know, why don't we have the opportunity to speak out about this? He said the city's zoning code allows marijuana shops commercial zoning just like a convenience store or doctor's office. And here's the best line. He said the question of how to zone dispensaries was discussed years ago after marijuana was legalized, when the first request of a business permit came in. That's the quote I was looking for. So if you're in any community in the state of Missouri, the Westplex, wherever, and you don't want a dispensary in your neighborhood, you have to speak now, because if you come out later after they plan on moving in, you are shoot out of luck. So, Brad, this is the second location, and you've referenced the other location before. There's one called Missouri Health and Wellness, right beside a neighborhood on 1st Street near the Missouri River Bridge. So you've mentioned that location before. Hey, Brad, here we go again. Another dispensary coming in. But neighbors, if you didn't want it, you should have spoken out sooner.
That's the one the lady drove through the front door of. Remember?
Yeah, it is, Brad.
Yeah, that's the one. And matter of fact, now they have those steel bollards all along Highway 47. So unless you are like driving a tractor trailer, you're not going to hit that building anymore. Okay, so in other words,
made for great radio, though, because what most people don't know is the woman that lost control of her vehicle was named Diane Jones. And then she went on the radio Monday morning in her B block and she told the story about it. It made for great radio.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused on something. Was there originally a planning and zoning hearing on this, or did they not have to do a P&Z hearing because of this when they originally applied for this location?
I don't know. I can't tell if there was originally a planning and zoning one or not. What I got from this quote from this gentleman, City Administrator Darren Lamb, is that the city zoning, whenever marijuana was legal, marijuana was zoned under C2 commercial zoning. So to answer your question, Brad, from context clues, I'm guessing, yes, planning and zoning got together and said, okay, we're going to put every marijuana dispensary under a generic commercial zoning, put it in the same bucket as a convenience store and call it the day. And then, I don't know, I'm guessing nobody objected then, or obviously the objections weren't enough to stop it.
Well, I don't know if this is a state law or a local law, but I don't know if I told the story or not. So tell me if you remember this, Addendum Tots or whatever you call it. our building there on West 5th Street in Washington, ironically, when I was going to the NAB convention, this is probably, 7, 8 years ago, something like that, a guy called me and said, and wanted to meet with me right away. And he wanted me to sign a letter of intent to sell my building to him. And I said, well, why would I sell my building to you? They were a marijuana operation. And the problem was we were right there on the corner of West 5th and Stafford, which is a decent location, a lot of traffic in that location.
And you were far enough away.
No. Here's the interesting thing.
Okay.
The deal fell apart because we were 972 feet from a school or something from a church. And there was a ruling. Like I said, I don't know if this is state or federal or city or county or whatever, but we had to be.
I think it's state. I think it's a state ruling.
We had to be at least 1,000 feet away from a church or a school, so the deal fell apart. So that was.
I believe that's a state regulation. And Brad, I'm glad you mentioned schools here because that's a good lead-in to story number 2.
Well, I knew that, John, because I knew what you were going.
Up a notch to number 2.
A second story about cannabis today. Brand new from Kurt Erickson of the Post-Dispatch. The headline, Missouri Eyes ad campaign about risk of marijuana use among young people. Now, if you're a reefer madness type, you are going to love this story. To their credit, Brad, I'll editorialize a little bit here. To their credit, state cannabis officials, that's the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, are looking to launch a media campaign to educate young people about the risks of using the drug. Now, first of all, it's nothing new for DHSS to run publicity campaigns, public education campaigns about various, pardon me for my throat this morning, to run various campaigns about educating the public about important health issues. So that's not out of the ordinary. They do that quite a bit. They've put out an RFP, a request for proposal, looking for vendors to do a media education campaign. According to bidding documents, the percentage of Missouri high school students reporting current use of cannabis and cannabis products increased from 16.7% to 20.3%. So almost a 4% increase in just 2 years. That's from 2021, the year before medical marijuana was legal, to 2023, which is when recreational adult use became legal. So a 4% boost among high school students. And then the Missouri Assessment of College Health Behaviors found cannabis use among college students increased from 27% in 2022, so immediately before legalization, to 33% the next year. So it jumped 6% in 1 year among college students. So what this campaign would do would essentially make the education about cannabis much like it is about tobacco. Hey, there are health dangers in this. Hey, it's not just fine to take a little toke now and then and think that it's not going to affect your lungs. Now, Kurt goes on to list all the benefits of cannabis to the state coffers. And these are ones that are well worn on our show, Brad. We talk about it a lot. We talk about how a ton of money is coming in here. And kids were also asked, how easy do you think it is to get cannabis, or in your experience, how easy has it been? And students say it's easier to get cannabis, marijuana, than it is to get prescription or synthetic drugs. 1/3 of students surveyed, of high school students surveyed, believe that marijuana was, quote, easy to get. And then, of course, the industry reminds everybody, hey, you can't come in unless you're 21 years old. We check IDs when people come in. And I think we know how that works, Brad. That's probably like, if you know somebody over 21 back in the day, you could get some beer. I'm knowing your age, the age was lower. But the point is, DHSS is looking to educate kids about marijuana. And I have to say, I'm surprised that this wasn't if this wasn't a part of the original DHSS plan years ago, I don't know why they didn't anticipate the need to educate school children about it. And my guess is because marijuana was so illicit and nobody can talk about it, and we have to be very careful what we say about the dope, and let's just see what happens. I'm guessing folks at DHSS maybe kicked the can down the road a little bit and waited until recreational was a problem and then started. But that may or may not be fair. Anyway, education coming to Missouri schools hopefully soon about the dangers of marijuana.
John, I don't know if I've ever told this story before, but when I was like in high school, if somebody would come up to me and said, hey, in Missouri, there will be a time when you'll be able to buy marijuana. You'll be able to play the lottery. You'll be able to do casino gaming. You'll be able to go and essentially you'll be able to do almost everything that you can do in Las Vegas. I'd say, no way. Jose.
You haven't mentioned that, Brad. And what you also haven't mentioned is the fact that after you daydreamed about that at your high school graduation, you went away to college and you became a disgusting lard of mass that was almost 300 pounds. And then you discovered pre-internet something called fastfoodmediet.com, and you were able to shed the pounds. You were no longer a lard butt, L-A-R-D. You were no longer a lard butt, but you were a normal-sized human being, and you knew that fastfoodmediet.com was the reason.
310, John, 310. Okay, you ready for number one?
Yeah, Brad.
The number one.
I'm going to bring you a story that's just barely referenced on johncombest.com this morning, but it's going to be a big one come Wednesday. Consider this a little timely preview. Let me clear my throat here, Brad. Pardon me, I have the frog in my throat this morning. 2026 primary election candidate filing begins tomorrow, just over 24 hours from right now at 8 a.m. Filing opens at Brad's favorite building in Jeff City, the James C. Kirkpatrick State Government Building, State Information Center in Jefferson City, when legitimate candidates and morons will line up, put their name in the old hat, pay their filing fee, and they're going to get a number. Here's the change from the old days, Brad. I know you're aware of this, but some listeners might not be. In the old days, it mattered what order you were in line, because the earlier you were in line, the likelihood increased that you would be first on the ballot. Everybody wants that first on the ballot position. They point to political science studies that show that the first name on the ballot gets the most amount of votes when you neutralize for every other factor. So people would line up the night before and want to be first in line ahead of their primary opponents. But that's not necessary anymore. You just get a number on the first day, and everyone who files on the first day gets a number, and then randomly the numbers are chosen of who gets to be first, who gets to be second, who gets to be third, depending on the size of the primary. Pardon me. So, Brad, on Wednesday, so the day after filing opens, you and I and A-Block, I'll dedicate a few minutes here to talking about anything interesting that's happened in our broadcast area. As a reminder, and this is a preview for Wednesday, there are no competitive general elections in the state legislature for 2026. There may be, and there likely will be, competitive primaries. By that I mean Republican primaries, and even some Democrat primaries for state legislative races or congressional races. There could be some intra-party competition, but there are no competitive general elections. So on Wednesday, we'll dedicate a little bit of time and we'll see if there's any surprises from filing.
Okay, so you say no competitive races in the entire state?
No, that's not what I said. I said in our listening area.
Oh, okay,
right?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. Okay, so in our listening area, there's no competitive races. Okay.
There's no competitive general election races for the state legislature. Now, I don't know about, if there's anything else that's going to be on the ballot. There's certainly going to be statewide ballot measures, but there are no, like if you look at state rep and state Senate districts, none of the general elections are competitive. And you say, John, how do you know that? The closest election was an open seat in 2024 that Republicans won by 6 points, 898 votes. So if you were to think, oh, well, a 6-vote difference is certainly competitive, by all means, call that district competitive. But I'm telling you, there are no competitive races in St. Charles County, Franklin County, or Warren County.
So do you think there are going to be more people for St. Charles County executive, more people than the 3 we know of right now?
I don't know. Your friend Arnie Dienoff will probably jump in, right? And I heard that there's a crazy radio guy that he wasn't going to run, but he had a near-death experience on Saturday. And he said, this is the Lord calling me to run a nuisance vanity self-promoting campaign for county executive.
It was on Friday, by the way. But
whatever.
I didn't get out of the hospital.
Well, knowing you, Brad, you probably croaked on Saturday too.
I didn't get out of the hospital till Saturday, but that's a whole other story. Okay. You think I'm kidding, too. Wait till you hear my story. Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And it's Brad's top 3, and my number 1, as in John would say, is a banger. Right, John? Is that what you say?
Can't wait to hear it.